Alrighty then. Move this up the way a minute. Oh, shit. God, got more wires running through this place than a bloody foreign embassy in, insert whatever foreign country you want. How are we doing, guys? Hope we're doing well. Hope we're having a fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, night, wherever we happen to be. All right, I'm gonna close that tab. Awesome. Okay. So we're gonna get into today. Only well, I say a short one, but I usually say a short one, and then it ends up going hours and hours and hours long. I need to send a quick message. Where is it? Oh, hang on a minute. Oh. Thought I messaged him. Evidently, I did not. Wait, where's he? Oh, there we go. Yeah, I thought I messaged him. There we go. Can't hold it against anybody. I'm absolutely terrible with my messages. Absolutely terrible. Is my local stream working? I'm actually streaming for the first time ever across the 3 different platforms at the moment. I'll have to see if I can link. There we go. Local seems to be working. I'll have to see if I can link the Patreon as well. Make sure people can come in here, and it'd be good to stream across all of the platforms. But yeah, hope we're all doing well, guys. Has a new hope emerged in British politics with the announcement of Restore Britain as an actual political entity? It's an actual political entity, because, by God, do we need something? You know what I mean? We need something. We really, really need something. And it's getting harder and harder to tell, at least in my opinion, you know, the parties at the quote-unquote top of the chain apart. You know, I got a lot of ire for that recently. For some of the things I said in my recent video, recent clip of the podcast, which I actually titled the podcast Reform UK, an Animal Farm Story, quote unquote, question mark. So this is the first thing I'm going to get into. I'll get into the stuff we're going to go through today a bit quick. We'll watch Rupert Lowe's video in full first, and then also his first speech after having announced Restore Britain as a national political party. Seen many different opinions on it. I think we'll go through some of the takes on it as well. Have I not saved it? There we go. Obviously, Paul Golding has weighed in on it. Many other different people have weighed in on it. Be good to have a look at this clip as well. But yeah, I think it's certainly shaken up the British political scene, to say the least, and God knows we need it. God knows we need it. Okay, got a couple of the clips ready. Awesome. Right, okay. And here, yeah. There we are. Go right here. Okay. So first thing that came up, I reviewed part of this for a podcast I was going to do earlier, but I ended up scuppering it because just wasn't able to talk and articulate anything resembling a coherent idea today. So we'll go back and give it another go another day, but I might not need to because we can go over it now. This was part of, and I'll get on with the show whilst we wait. I'll forgot to plug my charger in. Something I will want to do a bit quick. Got the room set up a little bit for another video I was recording, but that didn't exactly go the best either. Right. Okay. So here's Rupert Lowe's first announcement video of launching Restore UK as a political entity.
England that I...
Rupert, I'm not sure. I was told it was all about diversity and tolerance. That's what I was always told it was about. Diversity and tolerance and hating the billionaires and stuff like that. That's what I was always told that Britain was all about. Oh, and colonialism. Oh, I forgot as well. Colonialism. I say he's telling a much more flattering story of Britain here.
I love.
How often do you hear politicians talking like that nowadays? You see them slinging mud back and forth. You know what I mean? How often do you hear them talking about this with actual experience? Obviously, Rupert is one of the people. He works on this farm. You know, he runs it, so he has a lot of skin in the game in that regard. And he's talking here, which is again sort of like the more right-wing leaning nationalist position at the moment. Generations to come is the reason why a lot of people are getting so politically active at the moment. And in what you leave behind for those who come after you, a cause greater than yourself. A cause greater than yourself. What you're seeing essentially on the left, all of these different manifestations at the moment is a worship of the self. You know, all of this stuff were around like dictating your own identity and all of this stuff, and the places that can lead you down, you know, the trans roots and all of the silly pronoun and gender nonsense, right? It's ultimately all coming from a worship of the self, essentially. And this is where you see now a much different take. You're listening to this, it's a much more somber tone in contrast to something like the insomnia thing. In fact, we'll do that now. We'll bring that up because I done a full video on this actually for my YouTube channel. See if I can find it. The Reform in one of the previous conferences chose to go for sort of song and dance at the worst possible time, at least in my opinion. Anyway, this was ages ago. This was all the way back, number 52. When was this video published? This was 5 months ago that I published this video. This is a clip from, again, one of my longer episodes. And I'll just bring it up on there now because I think it's very, very pertinent to go through. We'll cut it to about 2 minutes. Always good to go back over what I said at the time and reflect on it, I suppose. But this is, you know, what Reform UK were doing a couple of months ago as people were getting more and more disillusioned with the changes that they've made, with regards to immigration, seemingly capitulating on Islam and other key issues and stuff like that. Not necessarily things that you want to see, you know what I mean? Just hoping that we do actually get a better alternative than this. But they went with a much different approach to their sort of political activism and one of their announcements. It into a fucking true pantomime by coming out at a Reform conference singing a song called Insomnia and wearing a sparkly blue jumpsuit. Apparently saying, is this god-awful Labour government giving you sleepless nights and insomnia too? Here is this absolute travesty, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm an insomniac. I'm an insomniac. Staring at the ceiling. Waiting for my thoughts to switch on. Yes, I'm an insomniac. I'm an insomniac. And all I can hear is the sound of that.
Right. I'm gonna cut away from me at the moment. I can't remember what I say next. Might go over a little bit about what I say next. I think I go down the route of you know, certainly singing better than I ever could, but it's not exactly the most reassuring that somebody who's involved with seemingly what many people would say is the only source of real political opposition, which in my opinion they're not. They're completely controlled, I think. And that this is giving them sleepless nights. God knows how it is for just regular people that don't have any of the acclaim, status, resources, wealth, all of these things, right, to actually deal with the problems, you know, like the peasants and the proles, so to speak. I can only imagine that if you're having sleepless nights, what the hell's going on just with the rest of us plebs, right? Not the best luck. You can see the contrast between the two. And this is not really changed. It's the only thing. You say, oh, this was 5 months ago. Yeah, it was 5 months ago. But it hasn't really changed. Reform is still going with like the glitz and the glamour approach almost with other events that they've done since then, right? Try and get this mass appeal, almost like the kind of focus you see, or the differences between you see people who do the big demonstrations like Unite the Kingdom demonstration, and then the focus on community politics, which is what like a lot of the nationalists and Homeland and all of those other guys, right, in the ex-Homeland members, their big focus was community politics and the differences between those two approaches, right? So I think maybe there's, you know, places for both, but right now the nation and its people are hurting. And they're tired of, I think, at least from how I see it anyway, a lot of them are tired of like seemingly this kind of false escapism that many political leaders are trying to sort of give them, if you will, as they capitulate more and more and more and turn into more of the same political sort of entities that we've had in the past. So I'm hoping that Restore Britain is actually going to be different. I mean, I have high hopes. But again, it's that kind of cautious optimism, if you will. Cautious optimism is what I think we should be exercising with regards to all of this, right? But you can see the change. You can see the difference between these two. It's night and day.
Think in generations, in what you leave behind to those who come after you.
And think, Tice, perfect example here that just came to my head. Tice, what did he say about demographic change and all of these things? Oh, well, I'm not going to be around to see it, so what do I care? You're seeing the difference between the thought processes of your big thought reform talking heads and thinking heads, and Rupert Lowe here. The thought process is completely different. A lot of us are not just concerned with other countries now, but how it's going to look in 20 years when it's our children or grandchildren that have to deal with these problems. That's why many people now are saying, no, the buck stops with us.
And that's why
There's a little bit about what I did have a little bit of concern about, but I think we should be giving Rupert the benefit of the doubt, the most part. That obviously reform, one of the biggest grievances at the moment is essentially like they're becoming indistinguishable from the Tories because they're literally filling themselves with ex-Tories, right? A lot of the people that ruined Britain in many ways. So when you're hearing this, and I actually had this conversation or a voice message exchange with Joe Marsh as well, thinking about this, is, you know, is it just going to be another thing that gets, you know, in order to increase its, you know, acclaim and reach or whatever, just settles for anybody, you know what I mean? Any little person who wants to come in and defect or whatever, and then you're just going to have, you know, essentially another version of what reform have turned into. I think Rupert's a lot different. I think we should be giving him the benefit of the doubt. But that was one of my concerns, just being like, the thing is, the way I see it at the moment, we have time. We have time at the moment, you know, 3 years or whatever it is to the next general election on a national scale. Anyway, on the national scene, obviously Wales has got one coming up now or a big election coming up in May. On the national scene, it's not going to be until 2029 unless obviously a snap election gets called. But, you know, I was hoping that it's going to be a case of it is actually going to be, you know, kind of like real grassroots support for this, real organic support from the people of Britain for this. I was really hoping so. I know they've had their Ben Habib announced that he's going to be supporting them with Advance and their members and stuff like that. Hoping that obviously that's not going to make them want to, you know, jump ship from that. And obviously, you know, people might think that, oh, well, that's not what I signed up for. I signed up for Advance, not for Restore. I'm going to do whatever. And that's obviously their prerogative. You'd hope that wouldn't happen. But it's hoping that it's not going to be the case of, you know, just turning into another aspect of the uniparty, hopefully. I don't think Rupert Lowe will allow that to happen. I don't think so.
Parties, such as Great Yarmouth.
He's right in saying that it's going to be very, very difficult. It is going to be very, very difficult. And at least hopefully we are going to have a political leader that's going to tell us, you know, the truth no matter how uncomfortable it is. You know what I mean? That's the thing. People are sick and tired of being lied to. Perspective, how we doing? Report the legals and scrap their visas. Also, I'm not sure what he's actually said on it, if he has said anything publicly, but I suppose the thing we could say is at the moment, hopefully it's going to be, you know, a foot in the door to proper change. You know what I mean? But yeah, we'll see what happens. He's been the only politician that I've seen at the very least at the moment that's willing to broach the issue at all, really, with regards to legal immigration. He's the only one that I've seen talk anything about it in any meaningful capacity. Whether he's actually gone into specifics, I do not know. But you still have a lot of politicians, obviously, as you'll see yourself, obviously, that what is it? Oh shit! I completely lost my train of thought. My mind went completely blank then. He's the only one that I've seen really that has even just broached the issue of legal immigration as a much bigger issue than illegal immigration. Start writing their policies. I'm assuming some would have already been written and I just haven't seen them yet. I think a lot of people have been putting screenshots here and there online. So I might go into that in a little bit now. Might go into that in a little bit. I'll bring up their website a little bit later.
What is necessary? is unable to speak English, lives
Sort of get in there. I think. You know, he's hinting at it at the very least, saying that a lot more people need to leave than to come in. And we know that he's not talking about British people. We know that he's not talking about those people. Advanced UKs are awful. Nothing specific, just a PowerPoint. I saw people sharing like their sentiments with regards to that. I didn't see anything specific on there, but yeah, it just seemed that it was I was getting the impression that it was just a lot of nebulous nothing, essentially. Which again, I think that's where, again, people will see it when it comes to the policies, right? I think that's one of the things that Homeland, from what I've seen, has been quite strong on. I haven't read them specifically yet either, but I know Josh Fernie was sharing a good few screenshots from some of their policies that are coming out. I think that's where you see a lot of political parties that seem, or political people that seem to be getting in it for maybe themselves. They then let themselves down because their policies don't reflect what they're actually meaning to be standing for, and it makes you think then maybe that they're just in it for the acclaim, they're in it for the recognition, they're in it for whatever reason, right? And then usually then they end up maybe going a little bit more mainstream, but then the guys who actually have good policy ideas, they're sort of like restricted to the fringes, maybe because of the way that they phrase things or whatever. Nothing burger policies. Did you... Oh, I'll just check it in a minute and I'll make sure to... Did you read HLP ones about the safeguard policy? I like it so far. I think I've seen little bits of it. The little screenshots people like Josh Fernie and stuff like that have shared. So might check them out a little bit later as well. Get through this video. And there's another couple of videos I want to go through. And maybe we can read some of the things on their website then as well. But yeah, no, that's one thing that a lot of the community politics guys have been, very strong on. A lot of people and entities that have been more focused on community politics has been the policy making side. And then it seems that they sometimes let themselves down on like the optics and, for lack of a better term, the marketing, you know what I mean?
in social housing, claims benefits, refuses to work, fails to integrate, commits crime, or even actively hates our way of life and wishes to do us harm, then they must leave or be made to leave. Restore Britain will make our communities safe again for women and children. That I promise you. If that means millions go, then millions go. We're constantly told that the economy needs vast swathes of low-skilled migrants. We know that's simply not true. What we need is to get millions of help.
I think the only thing he might have really kind of let himself down there, in the eyes of some, I suppose it's kind of I was going to say there's a certain case to be made for planting your flag and waiting for people to come over, right? Optics, some people have different optics on the situation. That is something you've got to take into account as well. When he said here about failing to integrate, where was it? He came back really strong. He said, if that means millions go, right? Where is it? So refuses to work, fails to integrate, lives in social housing, claims benefits. A lot of people that most people would be wanting to go. And then when he says about refusing to integrate or failing to integrate, that's one of those things that I see at the very least that people are, either slowly or quickly starting to turn on anyway. They're not really concerned with any kind of integration, or that's where I see the sort of attitudes leaning. Anyway, so I'm thinking there it's something so small, you know what I mean? And you got to take into account this part. I'm not, punching or anything like that. This entity is a day or two old, so it's like let's not be too harsh on them for one little just a couple of words. Let's definitely not throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. Yeah, that's like one thing which maybe you can be like, are we really concerned with integration? It's a case that's been, again, one of the words that has been used to peddle this, right? So again, do we really want to be, even going there, at least for the time being, at the very least, because the demographic is under threat, and I think it's a lot worse than what it actually is, right? And a lot of people are being forced to go down this kind of almost like hard line, route. You know what I mean? Where it doesn't matter if you're an immigrant. It doesn't matter whether you're a nice guy. It's a case of, look, if this carries on, it's going to be a minority, and at that point, that's a line you don't cross. That's a line you don't cross, because it's not going to get better from that point onwards, most likely. Anyway, at least not without really, really bad things happening. So, and that should be avoided at all costs. But yeah, it's a case of, again, we talked about integration, and then you got entire sectarian communities, right? You got entire sectarian communities. So what are we going to do? You're late, but just in time for millions to go. Yes. So again, and he's quite saying, look, if it means that, mass changes need to happen, right? And that's the thing. People are thinking like, you're going to solve this with little policies, right? You're not going to solve a massive demographic change with little changes, right? That's the thing. In order to just change the problem, you're going to have to at least implement a solution that is somewhat comparable to the problem that has been instituted. It's not like you're going to, if you end up spilling a pint of milk, let's just say this, if you end up spilling a pint of milk, you're not going to get all of your milk back by putting half a pint back in. So you're not going to fully rectify the problem without the magnitude of the solutions to match it. So that's where at least Lowe is seemingly saying here that if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. I will do it. You know what I mean? Saying he's going to go as far as it's going to require to make Britain safe, prosperous, and British again. Legally don't even contribute to GDP, even from Middle Eastern countries. Yeah, I know. Oh, where was it? Actually, let's quickly jump over to something a minute. Something I saw was really, really thing. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find it. There was this graph that got. Published. Yeah, this was it. It was shared by apparently the White Papers Policy Institute. This is damning, right? I'll see if I can bring up the ONS data that's linked as well, but it's in a spreadsheet, so might have some trouble with that. Where is it? Oh god, yeah, there's a lot of tables in here. Oh, my mic is doing the static thing. Okay, sorry. Right, let me know if that's any better. Let me know if that's any better. Yeah, you can leave the stats in the chat if you want. By all means, this is the graph I was referring to. I'll just bring it up on screen. From where is it? Put my phone over there a minute. From the White Papers Institute, Basil shared this. Fiscal contribution by ethnic group, UK 2023 to 2024, and basically the only net contributor, according to the White Papers Policy Institute, were white people. All of the other minorities, again, Asian, black, mixed, other, that were measured in this, again, I'm not sure where they pulled the data from, the spreadsheet is absolutely massive, are net drains, and massively, as you can see, it massively outweighs the contribution. Now whether this would be different if it was split along different, these are broad categories, to play devil's advocate, maybe it would be different if it was split, more specifically along different ethnic lines. But yeah, that was something I saw recently that was very, very damning indeed. And not only is a multicultural society costing us in terms of our freedom to speak and all of those things, it's costing us financially as well. Ooh. Is it any better now? Is my mic still doing that thing? Somebody let me know in the chat. Oh, it's still doing it. Let me see. I'll put myself on mute a minute. Okay, I've tried tightening what I can tighten. Is that any better? Let me know if that's any better. Does it again? I don't know why it does it. Fuck's sake. Maybe so. Got it, yep. See if that's any better. There we go. I've only got a limited space on my table, so I'm trying to move things about so that I can make it sound a little bit better. Is that better? Mic's a little bit further away from me face grill now. I've unplugged my interface and plugged it back in as well, so hopefully it shouldn't do it again now. Right, close that down. Is it still doing it? Or am I not coming through at all now? Okay, my feedback's coming through. Hope I'm coming through okay. That wasn't to you guys, obviously. It's fine now. Awesome. We'll tell you if it does it again. Okay, awesome. Thank you. But yeah, certainly so far, at least from what I've seen from Rupert and the Restore Britain, it seems to be that they're a lot stronger and more forceful, more willing to, you know, really go into the realms of uncomfortability, if you will, discomfort on behalf of the truth, which we sorely need.
Fails to integrate. Britain will be abundant.
It's written somewhere in scripture, I believe. I'm by no means an authority or anything like that, but I've seen many other Christian commentators talk about it. Literally written in scripture, man does not work, he does not eat, right? That's, you know, literally the way that it was understood for thousands of years. You know what I mean? But I dare say that you didn't have generations of people or regimes that if you... Oh, I suppose you did, actually. I suppose you did. It's been a thing all throughout history, right? You criticize the emperor, you're probably going to have your head lopped off, right? But yeah, maybe then you would have been used as a slave, and maybe you could have sustained your existence that way a little bit. Who knows? But, you know, you have generations of people. They want to work, obviously. But due to being, you know, open about their political opinions, for example, this is the thing. If you're open about your political opinions outside of an anonymous account, there's a good chance, you know, you're open about political opinions that are deemed, you know, unempathetic or intolerant or whatever, and you end up losing that job. And it does make you think about then applying for others and being like, is it just going to be the same again? You know what I mean? In the case of, you know, you keep politics out of the workplace, even if you express your political views outside of the workplace, it can be open season on you. Obviously, that is why many people use anonymous accounts, obviously, and remain anonymous on YouTube, Rumble, social media, etc. Having a leader you can never criticize is cringe. Absolutely. And we saw that with Rupert Lowe's debacle with Conform UK, as you mentioned. We saw that with Rupert Lowe's debacle with Reform UK. or as I call them, and as you call them as well, perspective conform UK, rather accurately, in my opinion. And yeah, it's Rupert Law obviously criticised him or whatever, had a disagreement, and then the next thing you know, he's being brought up on spurious legislation and kicked out of the party, and they're making jokes about potentially him having dementia and all of this stuff. It's absolutely horrendous. And then people wonder why, oh, you know, all of these different tactics you're using, the different things that you're doing, you don't really look much different from the mainstream, which we're sick and tired of anyway. And then they wonder, oh, they're all resonating and going to, Rupert Lowe's resonating with them and all of those. Oh, they must be Indian bots. Oh, it's just the online right. No, it's just people who see through the facade and see that it's more of a cult of personality than anything else. No Gen Z boss and a mini, I can get behind that. Then absolutely get behind that. If Lowe is the same or different, I mean, he is not that charismatic. Yeah, I think this was meant to be. I think this was meant to be a video where it was meant to be like a kind of like a somber address. It meant to be very, very different from the other types of things where you might see people are more charismatic. This is just like, you know, just having a regular conversation with someone. I think that was the sort of the tone that they were going for. Yeah, you certainly have some that may be stronger in the sort of, you know, rhetorical and charisma department. But certainly, at least when it comes to the online stuff, like on X and stuff like that, I don't know whether maybe he has somebody managing his account and maybe he has, you know, limited access to it or whatever. I can't imagine him making the memes that he's been reposting from time to time, where he has like his head photoshopped on the head of Ben Kenobi and stuff like that. So whoever's doing that, they certainly help him get across in that way. I just think this style of video, I think, was meant to be a little bit more, you know, somber and in many ways reflecting the mood of the nation. I think like Elon Musk, like, oh, I'll just bring that up on screen. Elon Musk fired like 90% of Twitter, and only 30 guys who worked there actually contributed to Twitter via the software engineers. Yeah, I know. Yeah, absolutely. And I think Elon as well, he can be one of those people that, again, just insanely effective for what he's doing. And so I'm hoping that even if Rupert Lowe is not the most charismatic, I'm hoping that he's going to be effective. And, you know, you can have like a, you know, Trump's got the charisma, but then obviously he's letting himself down in other ways then as well. But you've got like a good press sec, you know, in terms of her, you know, her charisma and the way she deals with the press and stuff like that, in Caroline Levitt. So again, obviously she's saying things that obviously the admin needs her to say and stuff like that. So in terms of the delivery though, you maybe always get somebody in that can deliver certain things better, even if you have, you know, the effectiveness behind the scenes more than anything, which is why I'm hoping this is going to be. So that was HR, I suppose, woman. Yeah. Certainly it's the biggest thing. It's like it's the whole society has become like, I want to say, like held hostage by like a societal HR department, if you will. Or even if you say something in your own home now, you've got to be brought up in front of the tribunal, you know, for insensitive remarks when you're just sat at home or around your dining table and stuff like that. It's like the HRification of British society. And I think a lot of us will be keen to see that go.
We will
That's good. That's good, because you see a lot of people, they want to get away from the notion of a nation as its people and stuff like that. Even, you know, people who claim to be Christian commentators and stuff like that. A lot of the Civnat Christian commentators. So that's good to see. That's good to see, you know, saying that, look, this erasure of Britain and the British people is not going to happen. That presumably we can then say the rewriting of its history for political reasons is not going to continue, all of this stuff, right? Again, maybe not using like certain words and certain phrases that maybe people would like him to use, but again, case of now maybe trying to sort of straddle that line, you know, whereby you want to get the point across, but do so in a way that people, I suppose, going to actually listen to. You know what I mean? At least the people in the middle. You know, you have people that as soon as he announced this, they're going to be straight on board. They've paid up their memberships, all of this kind of stuff. But then you have people that might not be so sure. So maybe he's trying to sort of straddle that line, especially because, as we mentioned, it's his first. This was his first public announcement of Restore Britain becoming a political entity, if I'm not mistaken. But you've seen that it's resonated with a lot of people, and certainly, you know, a lot of people were hoping that something like this was going to come. I just hope that, as I mentioned before, it doesn't become essentially like, you know, a landing ground, if you will, for, you know, defectors and Labour and Tories and so on. So, I mean, that there might be some, you know, collaboration in like a limited extent or whatever. But again, one valid concern people do have is that it could split the vote, right? That's one valid concern people do have. But like I say, on a national level, there's certainly time for them to build on this, and I certainly hope that they do so.
The identity.
Okay, so a bit of a somber address to start. Seemed to be a little bit more, maybe because he perceives it as more of a problem, against the influence of Islam, what would say the influence of maybe other groups and other influences and stuff like that. But I think he said a lot of stuff in there that's going to resonate with a lot of people. I think that this is where the tone of it, I think, is going to be a lot different, especially that bit where right at the start, within the first minute, he said, we're thinking about things that we're going to leave to our future generations. We're not thinking in terms of, let me find his exact words. You don't think in election cycles or headlines or polling. You think in seasons, you think in generations, in what you leave behind to those who come after. To those who come after you, your future generations. He's speaking, at least from what I can tell, in a completely different way to many of the other, you know, political talking heads that we have. So I can only hope that, as many people are hoping, that he's meaning what he's saying. You know what I mean? This isn't just, you know, political, you know, I don't even know what the word I'm looking for is, to be honest. You know, just political speech. This isn't just rhetoric, right? You know, which Layla Cunningham went to Oxford Union recently and said, I don't come with facts, I don't come with dates, I don't come with any of that stuff. I come with rhetoric, like just hoping that it's not going to be rhetoric and making sure that he is actually going to follow through on this stuff. Maintaining the future. Yeah, exactly. Exactly right. Well, generation sounds like a good part. Yeah. Again, hoping that, again, it's not just political bluster, so to speak. And given what Rupert Lowe has already been through, I'm at least at the moment in time willing to obviously give him the benefit of the doubt, as are most. You know what I mean? He's certainly a damn sight better than you know, Farage and Reform, who are showing their uniparty quality seemingly more and more by the day. And literally, they're trying to make friends with the Jewish groups and whatever by making Reform friends of Israel and Reform Jewish Alliance. They still get heckled as Hitler and all the rest of it, and then they put forward a Muslim candidate in London to try and court the Muslim vote. It's literally like you could not make it look more uniparty than this. So I think that was pretty good. I think it was good to actually set the tone in a different way. Now, I suppose we can actually move on to, in fact, what I will do is I'll quickly bring up the, let me go to the website. There we are. And just see what we can find on here. No more verbal dribblers. Yeah. Lowe being a Zionist is cut. Has he sort of changed on that? Because I know that he was toting that line when it was Reform, when he was with Reform. I know he was at that point. I know he said that he's, you know, he wants to. He said he obviously explicitly mentioned kosher slaughter as one of them, and then when he made his announcement, obviously there was a bunch of Jews on there that were saying that, oh look, if these people are going to be in there, they're going to be welcome in there, all of this kind of stuff. So is he actually still, you know, like a mega Zionist, or has he made that like knowledge that his opinion has changed? You know, that maybe he's a little bit more skeptical. I know he's very. He seems to be a lot more hawkish on foreign interference. Seems to be, from what I've seen, at the very least. I don't think he's going to be setting up Restore Britain, Friends of Israel and stuff like that, as Reform have done, and Restore Britain, Jewish Alliance or whatever. I can't see him doing that. But yeah, I know at the time, around 2024, people have been circulating that screenshot around that obviously he was seemingly going with the Reform Party line as well. So, yeah, I think maybe he could be given the benefit of the doubt on that as well. At the very least, he seems to have his interests first and foremost in Britain. And even if he has those views at the moment, he's going to either not let that affect him putting the British people first, or the minute he detects that that's going to get in the way of putting the British people first, then that's going to be gone. You know, at least that's what I'm hoping is obviously going to happen. Could do our best, I guess. Yeah. So let's have a look. What have they got? Let's have a look. So we got foreign policy, got immigration and border control, media and institutions. We won't go through everything. They have a lot of different policies on here. Cultural identity and social issues. So the foreign policy. Let's start off with this, I suppose. So the first he says on there, literally just in big bold letters, scrap foreign aid, which, given that foreign aid is essentially taking money from the poorest in your society and giving it to the richest in another, I think we can pretty much get behind, at least for the most part. But it actually says on here, UK currently spends billions every year on foreign aid, often sent to corrupt regimes, pointless projects, or even nations that openly hate us. End all international development funding. Pretty good start. Instead of automatic spending, every proposed foreign aid project must be brought before Parliament and debated on a case-by-case basis. MPs will be required to vote publicly, allowing full scrutiny and accountability. So no surprise airports in Moorpur. No surprise British taxpayer-funded airports in Moorpur that they tried to vote for. Any aid project must directly benefit British national interests, whether through diplomacy, trade partnerships, or humanitarian priorities with clear objectives. Every penny must be justified. It is morally indefensible to send billions abroad while British families struggle and suffer. British taxpayer money should be spent in Britain on British people. Good start. A good start, I would say, especially when he says every penny must be justified. Because if you look at Ukraine as one example, that's one thing that really soured a lot of the Americans on Ukraine, from what I saw, is that the fact that Zelensky was given, by America, like 180 billion or whatever it was, however many billions it was, and he could only account for like a third of it. He couldn't account for the rest of it where it had gone. So the American taxpayer in this instance is being like, well, where the hell is our money going? And he can't tell them why. And then they see the videos of like, you certain areas of Ukraine with like the sports cars and stuff like that, and seemingly him with certain habits and whatever, and then obviously disrespecting the president by showing up without a suit when he was requested to. There's things like this which you can say then is like, look, you're not doing yourself any favors. Certainly if you can't account for billions of dollars of taxpayer money, then that's going to massively sour them on you, and I can understand that. Wouldn't jump ship just yet from Homeland, so I want to see if they're going to do any groundwork. Not liked stuff so far. I just want to, hang on, let me bring it up on here because I can't quite see the full end of that comment. Bear with me, perspective. There we are. Not like stuff so far I have seen. And that's understandable. When I've seen, maybe, I don't know if Homeland of like the leadership or whatever have reached out on maybe ways that could be some kind of working together or whatever. Maybe you could say like, look, maybe this is where some of your policies could be done better or whatever. Not necessarily if you have any, specific say in that or whatever. But I would imagine maybe behind the scenes there's going to be some. I think a lot of people understand that this is that's why I get thinking about the Welsh separatists and stuff like that at the moment from the unions. Like, we're all in this together, as peoples of Britain, we're all in this together. It's a unified threat. So there needs to be, some element of cooperation. I was speaking about it with Callum Barker for the podcast recently. It's like with the whole Welsh separatists and all of these different things. It's like at the moment with Wales and England and their relationship, there's no use going and tearing at open wounds, wounds that have long since closed. Wounds that have long since closed and healed, for no real purpose. When if this carries on, we're all going to be speaking Arabic and speaking Hindi and whatever else, and there's not going to be any England versus Scotland or Wales versus England and Wales versus Scotland and the Six Nations which is going on at the moment, even though it's an absolute travesty for Wales. There's not going to be any of that if there's no Welsh and English and Scottish people. So that's the way that I see it. He'll speak with the other Homeland Party, about the new policy as well. They're going to be an updated remigration policy. I'll keep my eye out. And then let's have a look. Immigration and border control. So maybe to make it a little bit more palatable, should we say, they're using the term net negative immigration. The Boris wave must be reversed and the asylum system must be abolished. The annual departure of legal migrants must at least double. The millions of foreign nationals who cannot speak English, live in social housing, claim benefits, refuse to work, break our laws, or entirely fail to integrate should go home. For the foreseeable future, significantly more must leave than enter. And this was their policy back in August 19th, 2025. So maybe this is something that, they might update in the future, because especially in 3 years, you don't know what the landscape is going to look like. I would imagine the situation is going to get exponentially worse in the next 3 years. So maybe we could be seeing that this could change. Pardon me. Introducing the red list. So nationals from designated red list countries will face far stricter security checks, limited visa categories, and higher barriers to entry. Annual security-led review to access countries based on crime statistics, cultural attitude, sexual offences, extreme risk, visa overstayers, integration failure, and foreign policy hostility. Any country which refuses to take back their foreign national offenders or illegal migrants will be added to a red list and face visa suspensions, remittance tax, and aid cancellation and formal diplomatic pressure. I think that's going to be, especially the remittance tax and aid cancellation of formal diplomatic pressure. I think that's going to be some of the biggest things that we can do to I suppose, force hands in a way. Because one of the biggest things at the moment with any country where we have so many groups of people and amounts of people that are not British, they're sending money back home. Right, and that's obviously it's a big incentive for the government to keep them over here if they can take our money and send it back home. So if they're going to say like, oh, well, look, if you don't take back your people, we're going to essentially keep that money here, not allow them to send it back, or at least take a good portion of it so that it's much less beneficial for you. That's like a little thing which you could say, well, there's no good reason why you shouldn't, right? And it's a good way to say then, well, look, you can stop it, just take your people back. So I suppose we'll see. It all depends. Is it going to be enough, essentially? Especially when you're dealing with a lot of people, they're here for the reasons of expanding their religious influence and expanding their borders of like a caliphate, for example, which is potentially going to go much more beyond things like remittance tax and aid cancellation, right? If you've got people that are willing to blow themselves up, you've got much greater problems. You know what I mean? It's not going to be, I don't think that's going to necessarily be solved by remittance taxes, so to speak. No mention of remigration. Yeah, I think maybe they might be, again, to give them the benefit of the doubt, I suppose, skirting that line between terms that, you know, may be easily weaponizable by media and stuff like that. I suppose we'll see. This is sort of laying out, again, giving some stats, like the saying, like, it must at least double, maybe, giving them the benefit of the doubt. And that's the thing, like, maybe you mentioned... you know, if they've reached out to contact Restore, maybe they can be like, because I think Rupert Lowe, one of the biggest things about Rupert Lowe is that, unlike Farage, he's open to criticism in many ways, and he wants that input. You know what I mean? There was an account online that shared a really interesting status about his interactions with Farage and Rupert when he criticized reform. Farage, I think Tice, it might not have been Farage specifically, but Tice's missus, all these people and a bunch of the Faragists came out and attacked him for voicing valid criticism. When he did it with Rupert, there was like a little bit of a back and forth, but Rupert ultimately was asking questions, and then I believe it actually influenced the policy change. I don't know what actual policy change it was, but it was highlighting a difference between the two characters. So I think, again, this is a starting point maybe, and we'll see where it goes in the future. Rupert Lowe seems to certainly understand at least that drastic problems are going to require drastic solutions, even if he's not using exact terms that you would like, or that we would like, sorry, even. But blocking the Boris wave, so indefinite leave to remain is a legal status which gives migrants free access to benefits the NHS. It offers a migrant pathway to citizenship. Oh, there we go. Just get that. So many Zoomers making edits might be holding his online wait. I've seen a lot of the edits as well. Yeah, I've seen a lot of the edits as well. Whoever makes them, to be fair. I think there's one account by the name of Ormond, I believe his account name is. They make really good edits, and it does have to be said, they do make really good edits. It offers a migrant pathway to citizenship without demonstrating they have made real economic or cultural contribution to our country. The Centre for Policy Studies predicts 800,000 plus recent migrants will become eligible for benefits by the end of the decade, costing a taxpayer an additional £234 billion over their lifetimes. ILR, so that's indefinite leave to remain, must be overhauled, so boost emigration, easing pressure on public services and housing. Changes must be applied to those already here. So ultimately, this biggest thing does seem to understand, you know, that so many are going to need to leave simply to restore the balance that has been upended by generations of this stuff going on. There's more of this as well. This is quite a long policy. So you have more things like power to the local people. So no hotel, barracks or facility can be converted into migrant accommodation without a binding local referendum giving local residents the final say. Before any vote, councils must now publish how many migrants will be housed, where they will come from, the total cost to taxpayers, and the impact on local services like schools, NHS and policing. If residents vote against the plan, the Home Office will be legally barred from using the site or others nearby. Local democracy must override the central government. These decisions affect housing, security and safety and cohesion. Local people must have the power to say no and protect the community from being turned into an illegal migrant dumping ground. Mass deportations must remain the ultimate objective, but in the meantime, we must give power to the local people. That's the biggest thing. It seems to be giving the indication here that they could seemingly vote to have, you know, illegal migrants in their communities. The thing is, you have to then say, like, that's an issue, because this is going to be a case of it's a national issue no matter what, because then those illegal migrants in theory could go anywhere in the country. So this is an issue. If you let them stay there, it's not just an issue that is pertinent to the local community, that actually affects every community in surrounding them, and also far and wide as far as these people can get access to. I think once they're in the country, there's no telling where they can go. You know what I mean? So yeah, power to the local people, but certainly directives like saying, you know, like people had to say they want to count, you know, or give people power back to the migrants to house them in their facilities and make that a people's choice. It's like, is that really going to work? I suppose. But I think most people make the decision no anyway, because even the Greens don't want these people living in their communities, because they know the truth, they just don't want to admit it. So biggest thing I see at the moment, at least according to their website, with some of their policies and whatever else, it seems that they might have a good start. And maybe as the more information comes out about the actual situation that we're facing, maybe things can change. Maybe collaboration with other parties, you know, ideas from different policies and whatever that they can bring together, you know, and improve them. I think that's what they'll be looking for over the course of the next, you know, year, 2, 3 years, whatever. Unlike reform, where it's just more of Farage's cult of personality, if you will, it seems as though, again, they're actually going to be looking to improve and take on feedback going forward, actually listen to people. They're actually going to listen to people, it seems, at the very least. So the next one now is Rupert Lowe's speech launching Restore Britain as a national political party. So let's just see what he had to say in this one.
I now want to address the national political landscape. I've thought long and hard about what I'm going to say to you. And I've come to a stark conclusion. There is simply no other way. This is the only choice. You elected me to Parliament in 2024. The good people of Great Yarmouth elected me. Not for 1 second in Westminster have I forgotten that. I am here to represent you and your priorities. You sent me there to fight for change, not to do things how they've always been done, not to accept more and more relentless decline. You sent me there to try and fix things. And I have tried, I've honestly tried. And it almost got me sent to prison. I've used every tool available to a backbench member of Parliament, and more. Parliamentary questions, committees, motions, speeches, petitions, everything and anything. Sometimes we succeeded, more often than not, we haven't. The system simply will not shift. But we have tried, and we've tried again, and again, and again. And nothing has shaped my thinking more than our crowd-funded independent inquiry into the Pakistani Muslim rape gangs.
So I actually missed a fair bit of what he was saying there because I was being harassed. I was being harassed by my dog. I don't know if you saw it on the screen. So I actually missed a fair bit of what he was saying there. Now we're probably going to move on to the Pakistani rape gang inquiry in a moment, which has obviously been very, very pivotal. Really highlighting the nature of the system really is that obviously it's rigged. It's a completely rigged system, the system that we have nowadays. And it's designed not to be shifted. Obviously, it's designed not to be shifted until it served its purpose, until, democracy has been voted out, so to speak. And that's obviously why they want to bring in millions and millions and millions of people. It's just an extremely attractive voting bloc. So, again, re-highlighting the I suppose the question is at this point that many people are asking, and it was a question I was asking way back when I spoke to James Monroe last year. Is there actually a political solution to these problems? You know what I mean? Is there actually a political solution? I would certainly hope so, given that Rupert Lowe has now thrown his weight behind this as an actual political initiative. It does seem that he thinks so. So maybe there's still good reason to think that. But you see the magnitude of problems. You see that in many areas up and down the country now, the English in many areas of England, for example, literally cannot vote in a candidate to represent their interests. They literally cannot vote in a candidate to represent their interests because there's literally not enough English there anymore. So again, this is why the battle always has to sadly be fought on this ground. It's a case of when you have less and less and less of your people there and you have more and more and more of different peoples, and it's going to get to the point where they're just going to be able to rule over you by sheer force of number. So I'd certainly hope that we see, again, a concerted effort in that direction. It's not going to be comfortable for most people, but it's the truth.
An inquiry that should never have had to exist. An inquiry that I created only because the political system itself would not act. That inquiry has been the most sobering experience of my public life. Not just because of the awful crimes, not just because of the horrific suffering, but because of what it exposed about the way this country is governed. Again and again, we heard the same story at our hearings over the last fortnight. Warnings raised, concerns logged, evidence submitted, and then nothing. Nothing happened. Not because people did not know, but because acting would have been difficult, because acting would have caused controversy. It would have inflamed racial tensions. It came with personal and professional risk. It would have meant being labelled an Islamophobe or a racist. So people did nothing. They let the abuse continue all over the country. Even worse, many officials were even involved in the rapes themselves. We must call it what it is. It was, and still is, to this day, the rape of Britain.
It's a rape genocide, man. It's been used as a weapon of war. Let's make no mistake about it. This is a weapon of war. And that's what people don't seem to want to admit. They've been, lulled into this sleep where they don't think that this is a battle for Britain. Right, these are salvos that have been levelled at the British people and Britain as a whole in a war far more dangerous than any of the wars in Britain's history. It has been used as a weapon of war. It's absolutely, there's no words. There's no words, you can liken this to what the Soviets were doing as they rampaged through Germany. It's, and other things as well, like there's the rape of Nanking. I think it's what was some of the worst atrocities ever documented around that time as well have ever come from. It's not in the case of it being an overt hot war, but it has been a war of colonization and ethnic takeover, as so many of these people have viewed it, and we need to start responding as such.
They can call me Islamophobic, racist, or whatever else. Emily Maitlis did so. Let me be abundantly clear with you tonight. I do not care. I would rather be labelled a racist than to enable rape.
They really don't need to applaud
Our
so much.
inquiry will not just talk, we are going to act. A target list is already being made of rapists, police officers, social workers, council officials, politicians, and NHS employees. We will take out private prosecutions and civil litigation. We will be relentless in our pursuit. Our aim...
This is indeed making me think, though, you know, just above this where we can't see it, to play devil's advocate, so to speak, is there some kind of applause light up there, like they do with, like, chat shows in America or whatever? They want to get the audience to do a specific reaction, so they literally, like, light up a light that says, like, clap or applause now. Like, they're applauding a lot. Can you just, like, can you let the man speak? Just let the man speak. But obviously, Rupert Lowe's been instrumental with this rape gang inquiry. Obviously, we know somebody else that said he was going to fund them, but never did. And has actively told, according to most, has actively told his party and people to ignore this inquiry, simply only using it as a political football when it became politically convenient to do so.
Is very straightforward. To put people in prison.
And on planes?
Sitting through evidence, listening to survivors, reading documents that should make every public servant hang their head in shame. And it became impossible to ignore the bigger truth. The problem is not confined to one department. It is not confined to one policy area. It is not confined to one political party. It sweeps through the entire governing culture of this country. A culture of risk avoidance, a culture of reputational management, a culture of endless consultation and permanent deferral, a culture where process matters more than outcome, where responsibility is spread so thin that nobody is ever held accountable. That is why I've come to this conclusion. Britain does not need tinkering, minor reform around the edges, not carefully curated cosmetic changes, just this time with the same failed ministers wearing a turquoise rosette. It needs restoration, full-scale restoration. A restoration of courage, a restoration of responsibility.
I dare say, though, there is going to come a thing, though, where in order to restore, there is going to have to come a period of destruction, in the sense of a lot of these ideologies that are coming from these groups and are coming from this wider political goal, this globalist process, are going to need to be ripped up from the root and destroyed. Worldviews are going to need to be destroyed, unfortunately. A lot of people aren't going to like that. There's going to be a lot of fifis that are hurt. But take the how far back the trans and the gender ideology and stuff like that goes, that is resulting in now the sterilization and mutilation of children now being done by Wes Streeting under the guise of science, right? And in the guise of furthering the scientific endeavors. Those ideologies go back nearly 100 years, right? You go back to Kinsey, you're looking in the time of the 40s, right? You go back to John Money, you're looking in the 60s and 70s. You go back extremely far, right? So now these seeds were planted a long time ago. Now we're seeing the very damaging fruits of those things, that the harvest is being reaped, and it is simply so damaging because of how far these issues go back. You're not going to deal with that unless you go back completely, dig all the way down and rip it up by the roots, right? And you cannot be, there could be no quarter, so to speak, with that. The worldview itself has to be completely destroyed before it can be restored to anything like it was before, right? You have to get rid of the rot that's there before then you can like till the ground and build on it. You know, if you're trying to build something still when that rot is going beneath your foundation, you're trying to build a foundation, but that rot is still there beneath it. The foundation is going to crumble eventually. So you have to, it's the thing, there's going to have to be, you know, a campaign, so to speak, of destroying a lot of these worldviews before anything can be destroyed. The trans agenda is obviously an easy example, and gender ideology. The notions that you know, like around Windrush and stuff like that, and immigration, that you called and we came. We're like, no, it's not what the facts support. And the thing is, if you allow these things to carry on, you try to build on top of that. Okay, but we're going to restore, but not deal with that. You're going to have a repeat of the, you know, the same problem is going to come manifest in a couple of generations, or even maybe just a couple of decades anyway.
A restoration of a political culture that exists to serve the public, not simply protect itself. I've tried to work within the system, and I will continue to fight inside Parliament. But I can no longer pretend that the existing political structures are capable of delivering the scale of change this country now needs, and at the pace that is now required. The will is simply not there. That is why today I am launching Restore Britain.
Brother, you just sound like you hate your country and fellow people. Frankly, shaking my head, adios. I don't know where you got that impression from. I do not know where you got that impression from. Hey, man. Hey, adios to you. No problem. Hope you find what you're looking for elsewhere. I don't know where the hell you got that impression from, my friend.
As a national political party. At the next general election, we will put forward hundreds of qualified candidates from outside the existing political establishment. They will not be failed ministers. They will not be politicians. They will be men and women who have succeeded in their own fields and want to deliver a better Britain.
Good. I'm glad you clarified that. Like I said before, that one of my main concerns, which is going to be, is it going to be filled with ex-Tories and reform defectors and whatever else if they're going to try and go over to try and, you know, actually stifle a genuinely patriotic and grassroots movement. So I'm glad that Rupert has clarified that.
This will be an entirely different way of doing politics. Restore Britain will be the national umbrella organisation. And we will work with local parties to deliver local priorities for local people. Great Yarmouth First will be the pilot. Our sister party, based here in Great Yarmouth, focusing purely on implementing local change. We will run a joint ticket at the election, and I will be the candidate here in Great Yarmouth once again.
Maybe could be a good example for others to follow as well. Obviously, Rupert Lowe, in his instance, saying, you know, Great Yarmouth First, that's his constituency. So obviously those are the people he's going to be for. That's the people whom he's elected to represent, right? It's his people. in theory, then, could you do that with pretty much every constituency in England, Wales, and Scotland, and Northern Ireland, obviously, in theory? You know, all of them have this kind of similar framework. That could be the unity that's required, maybe, but obviously in a lot of these places, you have massive demographic replacement already. So it's going to be a case of maybe it can work in some areas. I was trying to think, maybe could that be a model to follow? Maybe could you have, like, wherever your constituency, maybe you guys would be residing in, and have like a little sister party that's like, you know, constituency first, and maybe that would get more people to rally around it, right? It wouldn't just be the same, you know, person, MP, whatever it is that you've always voted for, just out of a sense of tribalism, or just because that's what's always been done, right? Could it be the case that that might actually get people to rally round a party at the local level, I suppose, that gets better resonance with the local people, and then that actually translates to more national aims being fulfilled. I don't know, maybe that's something to think about as well. I just realized I am going to have to cut this stream short in a little bit, ladies and gentlemen. I need to pop out because I need to get dog food before the place closes. I forgot to get some earlier, so we'll have to quickly we'll see if we can finish this video, but I'm not going to get done everything that I wanted to. Might cut this video short and go to some of the other clips in a bit, but I just realized that the shop's going to close in the next sort of half an hour or so, so I don't think I'm going to be able to get through all of it.
I hope other local political parties will come together and help us to fight for a better Britain. If we can get this right, we can transform British politics forever, forging an entirely new way. I simply could no longer justify asking you to place your faith in a system that has repeatedly shown it cannot or will not fix itself. It needs a serious program of national restoration, and that's exactly what Restore Britain is being built to deliver. First, immigration.
Well, last thing he said there before we get into this immigration bit was, I think obviously a good point of that in terms of laying down foundations and systems for the future is going to be having a look at the voting system. Obviously, he's first past the post in the UK, which has led to a lot of really bad cases where, you know, candidates get elected by minority vote. You know, it was a case in the Caerphilly by-election where the Plaid candidate took the seat despite getting a minority of the votes, simply because he had the largest minority. So that's going to be something which I think is going to need to be addressed going forward as well, to ensure that, you know, in a democratic system, that most people, the one that is actually what most people want, is going to be represented, right? In many ways, it's been first past the post, at least in my opinion, that's actually contributed to a lot of this. So that's going to have to be something that hopefully is going to be addressed as well in terms of what would actually replace it. I know there's many different systems that I've seen people talk about. I think there's like single transferable vote is one of the systems, proportional voting. I'm obviously not a connoisseur in any of these systems work. I don't know what would be the best system, but certainly a case of, I think, first past the post voting needs to be looked at and, you know, replaced, because it's leading to candidates being elected with full power over a constituency or whatever, when less than half of the population, or less than half of the concerned population anyway, actually wanted them.
Restore Britain will not manage mass immigration. We will not just stop mass immigration, we will reverse it. Illegal entry will mean detention and removal. Not years later, not after endless legal paralysis, all funding the parasitic legal profession, not after being absorbed into a permanent asylum industry. If you enter this country illegally, a Restore Britain government will remove you within 24 hours of arrival. If you are living in the country illegally, you will be detained and you will be deported. They must all go. This is absolutely non-negotiable. Restore Britain would abolish the entire asylum system. No more asylum seekers. The scam will end. We will round up every third world criminal who has broken into our country, and we will remove them. Without compensation, without delay, without apology.
Good.
Do that, and the boats will stop overnight. Restore Britain has already published the most comprehensive deportation policy ever produced in Britain. We are now seeking the power to implement it. Legal immigration will almost come to a complete halt. We will close off entire visa routes from countries which are proven to provide us with criminals, sex pests, and illegal migrants. Zero immigration, net zero immigration, is weak, weak, weak. It is insufficient, and it is too late. The barbarians are already in the gates. For the foreseeable future, far more people must leave Britain than arrive. A country simply cannot survive without shared expectations and a shared culture. Language matters, contribution matters, respect for our law matters. All of that matters. If a foreign national is living in Britain and unable to speak English, refuses to work, claims benefits, lives in social housing, hates our way of life, or even wants to do us harm, then they must leave or be made to leave.
Okay, so it seems as though we're going through some of the stuff that we went through before. Anyway, like I said, I think there's a lot of good stuff in here. I think it's going to be a little bit thing where we said like legal immigration will almost completely come to a stop. It's like I think most people understand that legal immigration has been by far the most damaging vector by a lot of this, because illegal immigration by comparison is a drop in the ocean. And obviously you're dealing with several generations where, by my understanding, that you did not want really any immigration, or at least very, very strong immigration controls going back as far as the 50s, right? Going back as far as the mid to late 50s at the very least. So, you know, I think these are going to be conversations that are going to need to be had in the, in the future. I suppose we'll see what happens with regards to reform going forward. Obviously, I'm very, very excited. I was very, very excited to see this. I'm just going to see where it goes for now. Like I said, giving them the benefit of the doubt. Then they have a much stronger people at the helm, seemingly, than our supposed opposition in Reform or Conform UK. And really looking forward to seeing where this goes. Seems like Rupert is much more strong and principled man as opposed to the leadership of Reform. Evening, Ian, how we doing? Hope we're doing well, my friend. Caught us right at the end. So I have to go and get some dog food now. So going to need to jump off in a fair few minutes. Great day rugby for the Mountain Men. Rupert, better late than ever. Like this guy and his politics. And his politics only real deal we have. Unlike Nigel social climbing Farage. I completely agree, my friend. I completely agree. So, yeah, like I said, Restore seemingly giving a real true foot in the door for real change. That's all we can really hope for at this moment in time. You know, if it's anybody that's worth giving the benefit of the doubt, in my opinion, if there's anybody worth giving the benefit of the doubt, it's Rupert Lowe at this present moment in time. Farage obviously has a very long track record of seemingly coming in as the opposition figure, the right-wing, either populist or nationalist opposition figure. Then he will either leave a moment at a theoretic crowning moment of victory, like he did with UKIP. Catherine Blakelock has come on the record saying that, you know, alleges that he scuppered and destroyed her party. Many people are making the claim that he said that one of his proudest accomplishments was destroying the BNP. So you have all of these things where it creates a track record of behavior whereby maybe we shouldn't trust this person. Obviously, the whole Rupert Lowe saga, the implementation of Zahir Yusuf as the chairman, seemingly after some kind of dodgy donation, going soft on Islam, calling it the immigration election, then saying things like, if we don't accommodate Islam, we're going to, you know, not going to pan out well for us. Only promising like 600,000 deportations in the first 5 years. And obviously the United States has shown that you can do, you know, you can do many orders, maybe not orders of magnitude, that's the wrong word, but you can do many times that in just 1 or 2 years, as they are doing at the moment to deal with their illegal immigration, which happened over the course of Biden's administration. You're talking, 15 to 20 million that came over the border in the open border, the open southern border. They've shown that you can do much, much, much more than that with the heart to do it and the right systems in place. So saying that they're going to do 600,000 or whatever it was in 5 years is frankly laughable. It's frankly laughable. Shamara still dancing with our display against our English cousins. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought now. Getting a bit tired now, but yeah, I think we're gonna have to see where it goes. I certainly hope it's gonna be a uniting force, not another dividing one. I hope Restore Britain is going to be hoping that they're going to be a uniting force and not a dividing one, because certainly knows we are more than divided enough as it is. So I certainly hope that it's going to be more of a uniting force as opposed to a dividing one. Just have a look at some of these things. Now, he said we published the most comprehensive mass deportation policy to date. I think maybe we could do another stream to compare and contrast these maybe with other parties like Homeland, for example. So we've got mass deportations, legitimacy, legality, and logistics. So there we go. That's the actual policy. So let's bring that up. Oh, my screen has become a little bit unformatted. Bear with me 2 seconds. It does seem to be quite long. It does seem to be quite long of a publication. So we'll see how long it is now. It is, it's 113 pages. Damn. So in fairness, it does seem that they lay out, starting off with the legal obstacles. So this is the part of it. So we got legal obstacles to mass deportation. So maybe laying out the legislation that's been created to make this deliberately difficult, obviously. such as the Immigration and Asylum Act 1999, Nationality, Immigration and Asylum Act 2002, UK Borders Act 2007, Border Citizenship and Immigration Act, Equality Act, Illegal Migration Act. So they lay out all of these, the UN Refugee Convention. This might be a thing to actually go over the entire policy in a stream in and of itself. We have to act sooner than the next expected elections. I was talking to Callum Barker for the podcast. He potentially thinks that a snap election could be on the card. So we dare say what happens with regards to that. It certainly needs to be moving fast. Absolutely. So we just quickly go and find the first bit. Where is it? I'm just trying to look on the side of the page here to see if I can find the actual thing. Let's have a look at this. Introduction. Let's go with this. Britain is in the midst of an illegal immigration catastrophe. It's obviously not just illegal immigration. It's legal migration as well. Drains the treasury, imperils national security, undermines public trust in authorities that owe their legitimacy to the consent of the British people. If we wish to remain a serious law-governed country, we have no choice but to detain and deport every single person who has broken into our national home. Those who, for whatever reason, cannot be detained should be made to find life in Britain so uncongenial they choose to leave. Doing such things will first require clearing of all the legal obstacles that stand in our way. And brings this up. So the proportion of small boat arrivals from 2018 to 2025 returned versus remaining, only about 6,000 were returned, 161,000 ended up remaining. I think by some estimates, we've now got like all of the illegal migrants that have come into this country. I can't remember the time frame that it was over. I saw that it was potentially as high as like many more 100,000 above even that. So yeah, very, very scary times indeed. The legal obstacles to mass deportations. So by repeal, he wants to repeal the following. Section 95, which gives support to asylum seekers and their dependents. In Section 95 itself, persons for whom support may be provided is presented as a power to be exercised at the discretion of the Secretary of State. However, when read in tandem with Section 122, support for children, and Regulation 5, asylum support under Section 95 and 98 of the 1999 Act of the Asylum Seekers Reception Conditions, Regulations 2005, it amounts to an obligation. Any support enjoyed by illegals must be of the bare minimum variety and contingent upon their surrender to detention pending deportation. Nationality, Immigration and Asylum Act, repeal Part 2, which provides for the housing of asylum seekers in accommodation centres. Instead, there should be statutory duty to detain and deport. Part 5, which sets out Britain's immigration tribunal provisions, including respect of protection and human rights claims. In addition, subsequent bits of text like Part 5A, much of this would fail to survive withdrawal from the European Convention on Human Rights and or appeal the Human Rights Act. That's the biggest thing which I see at the moment. People are saying that, you know, we need foreign courts and foreign legislation, whatever it is, to maintain human rights. When, you know, it goes far deeper than that. It's not a foreign court that says where your rights come from or anything like that. And there's no reason why we can't just do it ourselves, right? So we don't need any foreign courts or anything like that. Anybody that's saying that is just doing to try and maintain the system because they want the system to be maintained, because they want these initiatives to continue. Last little bit, because I will have to go now. UK Borders Act, repeal the following. Section 33, that override automatic deportation for foreign criminals where their removal would breach a person's convention rights or United Kingdom's obligations under the Refugee Convention. Much of this is addressed in Section 2 and Section 3. So we'll go through all of these in a little bit. The Equality Act, I can completely understand why. It's like one of those Marxist bits of education that divide people along all of these different lines into their associated class structures. So I could see why that would want to be repealed, because if you're like, you know, have all of these different victim categories, essentially, if you have some kind of gender victim status, and then you have the racial component, and then you have the religious component and all of these things, essentially like stacking on victim currency, which actually elevates you in terms of privilege. If you're a white British Christian man, you're right at the bottom of that hierarchy. You know, one of the most unequal bits of legislation, but that's because it was never meant to be. Equality Act mandates the active pursuit of egalitarian goals across the public sector, including as a matter of government policy. It does so by prohibiting both direct and indirect discrimination against people with so-called protected characteristics. Some exceptions are made for immigration enforcement, where certain forms of discrimination, such as on the basis of nationality, remain technically legal. However, mass deportations are likely to be frustrated if the act remains in place. The New Culture Forum proposed in a recent list of pledges put to MPs, the Equality Act should be scrapped altogether and replaced with a simple non-discrimination duty. So again, you can have debates around these things, but certainly it's one of those bits of legislation that's been weaponized against the British people by design. It's designed to elevate people of different, nationalities or religious backgrounds or whatever else, in terms of having a currency that they can pull on, a social currency that they can pull on in terms of victimhood, via government policy. And it's been designed to push through a lot of these agendas as well. So it's more of a social act. I think that one is going to be more of a social act. Jamaica will have to be undone to restore Britain to the society that it once was, before anyway. Can't rely on rhetoric. What's Callum's info on that? Just a hunch. We talked about it in our conversation recently, which will be coming out very, very soon. We talked about it recently. It's just one of the things that I asked about. What do you see in Britain's and Europe's short, medium, long-term futures? And said just got a hunch you could potentially see a snap election on the card, just with how much the government is tottering. So I don't know. It's literally just this hunch. Yeah, it's literally just this hunch. In the past, all of these rules prior to entering World War II march forward. Indeed. Something should need to be stepped over. You know what I mean? Right, I'm going to have to get going now, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to get dog food, and she's getting very, very skittish. So, that was a little bit about the reform stuff. I would have liked to have gone a little bit longer, but I forgot I needed to go and get food for my lovely doggo. So I'll have to go and leave that there. But thank you so much for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. Greatly, greatly appreciate your time. And I find it useful. We'll go through it a little bit. We'll go through more of this stuff maybe in another stream on another day. But yeah, you take care of yourselves. Hope you're having a fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, night, wherever you are. And I'll see you again very, very soon. Thank you so much, guys. Godspeed.